I think this may be the single most complicated topic I've ever undertaken. The outrage surrounding Halo Infinite's progression and customization system is understandable, at least to the levels by which the system we got contrasts to the system we were promised. We were ensured that challenges would reap us unlocks, that crafting our Spartan would be not akin to a grind, that in this game we would be able to become Spartans. Now with options and flexibilities unseen in previous Halo games. And what we got, in many ways, feels like the bad ending of every prediction and critical discussion I've had on Halo Infinite's controversial customization choices. And while I would never claim 343 had to take my advice explicitly, over the last year I have played devil's advocate, showing how the new systems that players condemned, like armor coatings, challenge-based progression, and even genderless Spartans, could be executed in positive ways. And I have found myself personally disappointed in nearly every regard. So today, I'm looking to get through my own disappointment and to quantify the realities of this situation. We're going to look at the key traits surrounding the controversy of Halo Infinite's progression to answer one question. Are Halo fans overreacting, or is Infinite's progression system bad for Halo? Be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on, and let's get this started. In these previous videos popping up below, I sought to show fans how a controversial choice does not always equate to a negative one. Through radical action, one can create radical results. These videos revolve around key topics that define the radical potential Infinite had for a positive change. These concepts are possibility, ease of access, player expression, and time to reward. We're going to roll through this list and compare the potential to the reality. But first, I want everyone to understand I will not be talking about prices in this video. I want everyone to understand that money means different things to different people, especially depending on where you live. $1 can mean two entirely different things. It would not be fair for me to tell you what is or isn't expensive. So you make that conclusion based on your own preconceptions of money. Possibility is the raw volume of options we have when progressing and customizing. In short, how much more is in this game that wasn't in previous games. Armor coatings are actually a good example because they are an easy system through which we could have controlled materials, paint jobs, or whatever else was impossible in a two-tone color selector. Secondly, player expression. In direct tandem with possibility, this is how we are allowed to use those options given to us, and in turn, what options we use we didn't have before. Having a body type selector could have been a great means of new player expression, but it of course extends out to generational customization, attachment stacking, and player ID options too. The drivers behind whether or not possibility and expression actually work, however, are ease of access and time to reward. Firstly, with ease of access, we knew going into this game that some elements would be monetized. The hurdle 343 needed to overcome was making sure monetization did not become a barrier for players. Monetization needed to not interrupt the natural desires for the player expression. Finally, time to reward. In short, Infinite needed to make sure the time spent playing the game was directly rewarding for the player, and that reward was directly equivalent to rewards seen in previous games. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with tying progression to challenges, but due diligence has to be done to ensure challenges are not interfering with the natural order of play or the expectation for reward. 4 key concepts dictate the success or failure of Halo Infinite's most controversial yet most potentially positive progression and customization aspects. So how did the game fare? By my account, the multiplayer launch of Halo Infinite fails to properly execute every one of these aspects, and I'll describe how by simply talking about helmets, chests, and shoulders. Firstly, the possibility and expression fell miles short of what was needed to convince players that this system was superior. Why? Because of armor cores. From a raw possibility standpoint, this game has 20 helmets currently. Not bad, considering Reach had only 21 native. However, 343's choice to lock certain armors to certain cores splits this number 3 uneven ways, such that the total pool doesn't matter because the player cannot actually access the total pool in a single customization. 3 ways, there are 7, 10, and 3 helmet options, making 2 cores akin to Halo 3 and 1 core the least varied since Halo 2 Anniversary native. But now we have to take our 3 strings of possibility and apply the concept of ease of access to them. By that, I mean which of these armors are paid for and which are earned. A quick filter now sees our cores reduced to 4, 10, and 1 non-store options. Now this actually caveats to 0 and 1 if you elect to treat the Battle Pass armor as non-accessible, which might be fair depending on how you value money. We are now on each core left with some of the worst customization pools since Halo 2 Anniversary. But this was solely a step-by-step walkthrough of helmets, which is the most totally abundant armor option. What if we explore shoulders? We have a total pool now of 13 options, split into 5, 5, and 3, and then money filtered to 1 or 0, 10 or 0, and then 1 again. If you don't have a full appreciation for how much armor core locking hurts customization, look no further than armor coatings, which by my measure have a pool of 51 right now if I exclude the promotional ones. Only 30 of these coatings are not just plain default colors, and all 30 are locked to specific cores. And it especially stings because the HCS winter coating, for some reason, is the only universally applicable coating. But the other beast in the room that we haven't even considered yet is time to reward. Let's dial back our pool of helmets we have even if we don't want to spend money in the store. You have 4 options on the Mark 7 armor core. You don't obtain your first helmet reward until level 30 of the premium battle pass. That's right, even the first unlock 30 levels deep is still tied to a purchase. Time to reward is a highly subjective concept because it also relies for the player to have a personal sense of how long they would play to receive something. However, it does have quantifiable aspects. To give a limited view of what time to reward looks like in Halo Infinite right now, I surveyed my Twitter followers, simply asking them for what level they were and how many hours they had logged. The results are as follows. In a sample size of 100 players, they are earning an average of 0.62 levels per hour. That's right, the average player is not even necessarily ranking up once per hour of play. Rounding up, the sample group has achieved an average level of 30 after a total of 45 hours of play. Let's reflect the stats on our rewards. Remember how I said you need to be at least level 30 to unlock that first non-store Mark 7 helmet? Only 32% of the sample group have earned it so far. Here are the full stats on player progression as of the survey date. If we use the linear relationship between average level and average time spent playing, we can observe that an average player might expect to complete the Battle Pass in around 160 hours. Halo Reach imposes a daily credit limit of 200,000 credits on players. Factored into the little over 9.5 million credits required to complete the Reach Armory, excluding Haunted, it would take a player a little over 48 maxed out days to complete it. But just keep in mind, this is highly unrealistic, as you can only earn 8,000 credits per any given match, meaning you would need 25 maxed out matches per day to hit this rate. Even if the match was just 15 minutes long, you're looking at 6.25 hours of play a day, resulting in 300 hours total to unlock everything in Reach, minus the Haunted helmet. So when compared to Reach, in reality, Infinite isn't nearly as bloated in its time requirements, which is a misconception some players have. However, unlike Reach, which allowed players to accrue and freely spend points on unlocked pockets of items, Infinite forces a purely linear series of unlocks on the player. And because of core locking, the reward you get after X amount of time has a 2 in 3 chance of not even being relevant to your customization desires. And that's not even factoring in XP boosts and challenge swaps, which are pass rewards as well. So the overwhelming majority of the time you spend pursuing a reward is actually wasted on rewards you do not want. This is what makes Halo Infinite's progression feel so lengthy, because you are now, even at the earliest levels of progression, spending potentially 2, 3, 4 times the regular playtime required to be truly rewarded. This is a major flaw. I know this video's gone on much longer than normal, but I feel confident to make my final assertion. Halo fans are not overreacting to the flaws of Infinite's progression and customization. As reflected in the 4 key concepts we discussed, Infinite is not delivering its full potential, nor to the benchmark 343 set for themselves in the marketing for this game. My message is to undo the limitations set on this game. Allow your armor pools to intermingle, swell them back to the equivalents of Halo 4 or Halo Reach, remove linear progression from the Battle Pass, and follow your own example from MCC by allowing players to pick sets of levels apart for unlocks before progressing to a new page of options. If there's one thing this system has, it's potential. I feel like I'm looking at a McLaren with 2 flat tires. I know what it can do, but right now, it can't. If Halo Infinite does not remove core locking and does not deliver players greater control over their reward paths, I will continue to assert that this game has the worst customization implementation in the entire franchise, based upon its abuse of the player's time and money, and all in spite of the raw and impressive potential it has for greatness. I said I wouldn't speak to money, but what I can speak to is time. The fact that the Battle Pass currently and very purposefully abuses players' time is unacceptable, and being free to play does not excuse that. Players can feel free to support 343 and Microsoft by buying things if they want, but one of our key traits was making sure that buying things was never a barrier to the level of progression and customization Halo players have enjoyed for at least the last 13 years. Halo has an internal standard to uphold, and being free to play is not permission to lower or neglect that standard. For today's viewer question, I want to ask you something based on a comment a friend made to me that I've been thinking about for the past almost 2 weeks now. Would you have just paid $60 for this game and had that been it? Or was free to play something that directly attracted you to this game? Leave your comment in the comments below. Like always, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter, like the video if you liked it, and make sure you join my Discord to continue the discussion there. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.